Have you learned anything about what young high school people in this country are interested in out there, or what they know, or what kind of schools get involved in this? Is there some kind of MO you've said, well, this will be a great school for doing this?
The demand is greatest for our program in large urban areas. In the Bronx and South Bronx, they can't get enough BWB, and we're in 19 schools there. In Chicago, all 8 schools that we brought on the program are city schools, urban schools, and we were very fortunate to have the support of Michael Scott, who's the president of the Board of Education and has recently, in fact, joined our board of directors. Michael brought BWB to Building with Books, that is, to Chicago, and he introduced it to all the schools, not all the schools, but he handpicked 20 schools that could participate in BWB, and we had 8 slots. So it became competitive after meeting with 20 principals, which of the 20 would get the 8 slots. And we go through a process where we, interview and talk to the principals and the teachers. We need to make sure that they have, complete buy-in into the program. And then ultimately we take it to the kids and go into their classrooms, and they tell us whether they want the program at their school or not. And we've been very fortunate to have the leadership of Michael Scott to get us into these schools that we're in Chicago, and under his leadership, we plan to expand the program tremendously in Chicago. It's been very successful. This is our first year in Chicago. We started up in September, and there'll be a bunch of students from Chicago headed over to build schools in Nicaragua and in Mali this summer.
What's more important now to you, the education of people here in this country, or education of people in the building schools in the other country? Is there a ratio of what you're trying to achieve?
The ratio is exactly even, and to ask me or anyone at BWB, Building with Books, that is, I keep using the acronym. To ask any one of us what's more important would be a difficult question to answer, because both are extremely important. Our after-school programs are serving a critical population of youth. In the United States right now, there are 11 million youth not engaged in after-school programs. And kids that aren't engaged during these critical after-school and weekend hours, boys 6 times more likely to be convicted of a crime. Girls are 50% more likely to have a child before graduating high school if they graduate. Boys and girls twice as likely to drop out of school just because they're not engaged during these critical hours. And so we feel that working with students in an after-school capacity is absolutely critical. And therefore, we set up these programs and are empowering these youth to make a difference in their communities and to build schools overseas. So that's important. And then internationally, there are 1 billion people that are completely illiterate, according to UNICEF, worldwide. And education, has such a huge impact. Poverty and illiteracy are directly correlated. And 1 year of education for 1,000 girls will lead to 60 less infant deaths in Africa. Educated mothers in Mali will have half as many children as those who are not. And the average woman in Mali has 7 children. So, there's enormous issues with population explosion. Education has a direct impact on reducing that problem. Literate mothers are twice as likely to vaccinate children. 6 years of education, and this is critical, 6 years of education in a village will increase farm production by 12%. And when all these villagers are subsistence farmers, you're talking about the food that they're able to serve to their family. And when there are problems with famine and other things, this turns into a life or death issue. So education just has a tremendous effect on the villagers and the programs, after-school programs in the U.S. to reach out to students who need them the most in the cities, the kids that others believe are disenfranchised and they disregard them. Many people look at these urban youth as the problem. We see them as the solution. They are the solution. They can take charge and make a difference globally and in their own communities, and they can make change in their own lives. And that's what the programs are designed to do.
Jim Ziolkowski is the founder and president of Building with Books. As we heard, Building with Books now has a Chicago chapter that's preparing for a trek this summer to Mali, West Africa, and Nicaragua. And you can find more information about Building with Books on our website at chicagopublicradio.org/worldview. And while you're there, you can hear all of the stories that we've broadcast as part of our Global Activism series. You can also suggest someone you think is making the world a better place that we should include in our series. And the work of Building with Books was suggested by Paul Ingman. And if you have a suggestion, go to chicagopublicradio.org/worldview.